The world collectively relies on Russia for the nuclear fuel supply chain, with 1/3 of conversion and half of the enrichment capacity coming out of Russia. This is for nuclear generating electric facilities. The U.S. receives about 20% of its enriched uranium from Russia, which is not currently sanctioned. We have almost no domestic uranium processing, with no operational conversion and only one active enrichment facilities. We cannot currently produce the necessary enriched uranium to supply the current nuclear fleet that we have, and for research needs, and obviously for national defense needs. Idaho, as most of you know, is the home of the Idaho National Lab, the birthplace and flagship lab for nuclear energy in America, indeed in the world, indeed in the universe. In 1951, we generated the first electricity there using nuclear energy, and since then we've been on the cutting edge of that. Right now, all of us are familiar with the fact of what Russia has done, this illegal war that it's pursuing against Ukraine, and its absolute lack of judgment in conducting its affairs in the world is really remaking the face of Europe and the face of the world when it comes to supply chains in a lot of matters. When this war is over, it won't be over. We, along with 29 other countries, formed NATO to push back against Russia, and it kind of went to sleep as we went along over the decades, everybody thinking that when the Iron Curtain came down that Russia was going to more or less behave itself and join the international players. Maybe poison a few people once in a while, that's what they do. Interfere in elections once in a while, that's what they do. But other countries do that too, and we started doing business with them. As did Europe, and Europe got tied into them even more than we did. Nobody believed that they'd start a medieval war in the 21st century, but that's where we are. When this is over, our relationship with Russia is not going to repair for a long, long time, nor is obviously Ukraine or Europe. There's not going to be a reconciliation commission where we all get together. What these people did, what the Russians have done in Ukraine is barbaric, it's unforgivable, and it's going to be decades and decades before anybody that is in the right mind does business with Russia again. So that brings me to the problem that we have, and that is that we have this supply chain with the fuel coming out of Russia. Now, the ranking member and chairman and I have produced legislation that we're going to get in and try to resolve this problem to a degree. But this is a serious problem. So, Mr. Light, for your question, since you're in charge of international affairs at the Department of Energy, what would you do tomorrow if you got to the office and somebody handed you a pink slip that said, "Oh, the Russians called and they're done. They're not giving us any more any more supply"? What plan do you have to respond to that situation?
Can I just say, sir, that the way that you put that you articulated where we are with Russia and the problems going forward, I couldn't agree more, 1,000%. I think you're absolutely right. It's astonishing what's happened, and this energy struggle will continue.
It changes the world.
It totally does, sir.
And for the foreseeable,
having grown up in the Cold War, I can't believe we're here again, frankly.
Here we are.
So, but I won't take up your time with that. If we had that pink slip, sir, then I hope we have your legislation in hand to already start the process to get out of that dependency. We absolutely have to make strategic investments to strengthen our domestic supply chain so that we are not in this position. We never are in that position again. Our current reactors will need some time to wean off, but if it shut off, then we've got to be there. And I think that we are going to do everything we can to make sure, with the current authority that we have already in the legislation that you plan, that we are in a position where we can respond to that. Secondly, we've got to look also at the technologies of the future. The most amazing thing about Idaho today is these test beds on the small modular reactors, which are just so encouraging and so fantastic, and so I think where we really definitely need
those are the future.
Forward.
There's no question about it.
Those are the future, and we need to make sure that the fuel for those SMRs, again, we do not find ourselves in a position where the United States is not producing its own supply for that. So on Helio as well, we've got to move forward and move towards nuclear fuel independence.
Now, thank you, Mr. Light. And I'm sure you will agree with me as the ranking member and chairman and I believe that this is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue, and it's an issue that is of critical importance. And more importantly than that, the issue, unfortunately, does not lend itself well to the pace at which we move around here. And this really needs to move forward. So thank you for your thoughts in that regard. I hope you'll join us in doing our best to get this legislation passed. And thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kelly.